Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome. Welcome in, everybody. Let's just wait, give it a minute, see if anybody else joins. Happy Wednesday, halfway through the week. Before holiday week, and we have a nice break next week. That's exciting. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. My name is Brianna Medeiros. I am the CIEE Community Engagement Manager. And welcome to our College Access Workshop. I don't know how many of you here, actually drop in the chat if you're a CIEE alum or if you are interested in CIEE and considering it for the coming year. So which one are you? Are you an alum or a prospective student? Go ahead and drop it in the chat. Prospective student, alum, prospective. Awesome. Awesome. So we got a good mix. We got a good mix here. So this session is part of our annual Global Navigator virtual fair. So I think maybe a lot of you have been attending some of our virtual fair sessions over this past week. But this session is actually a monthly session, our College Access Workshop that we offer exclusively to our student alumni. So this month, since it's the virtual fair, we decided to open it up to prospective students as well for you guys to kind of get a taste of another perk that we offer to our CIEE students. We believe that once you become a part of CIEE, you're a part of our community, and we want to be here to help you with your educational process, even after you return to the US, after your study abroad experience. So we offer these sessions in partnership with Arizona State University, with George Washington University, and now with Knox College as well in Illinois, to have college admissions professionals come and give our students inside scoop on the process and all of the tips that you need to be successful while applying to college. So tonight I have with me my coworker Awa, who's going to help us out in the chat and with any questions, and Hannah, who is from Arizona State University and will be our main presenter. So just to go over our session, we'll look again at very quickly at what is CIEE College Access, and then I will hand it over to Hannah, who will give us a presentation about staying organized, meeting deadline, everything that you need to do to make sure that you are not stressing out during the college application process. And then we'll have some time for some question and answer and a wrap up. So again, our college access is exclusive college planning benefits, and it is only offered to our CIEE study abroad alum. So every month they get a link with a registration for these sessions, and they are always we're always joined by professionals from these partner colleges that I mentioned, Arizona State, George Washington, and Knox College. And it's an opportunity to engage with other alumni and other families who are navigating the college admissions process and, a network of supports. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Hannah Oliver. Hannah is our representative from Arizona State University. She's an admissions coordinator for the Pacific Northwest region. I don't know if any of you are located in the Pacific Northwest, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and let Hannah take over. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Brianna. I will share my screen now. Can we see that okay? Yep. Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. So I am going to go over how to stay organized and meet deadlines when it comes to the college application process. So the first thing I want to quickly introduce myself. So like she mentioned, my name is Hannah Oliver. I work for Arizona State University. I am a Pacific Northwest Regional Admissions Coordinator. So I don't actually live in Arizona where my campus is based. I live in Washington State. I work with students all throughout Washington and Oregon. And then I also do work with students from Alaska, Alabama, Arkansas, and Kentucky. So if you are coming from any of those states and you're interested in Arizona State, I will be your go-to girl. We're not going to talk about Arizona State today, though. We're just talking about applications, deadlines, and staying organized. So we're going to talk about different types of applications. We are going to go over the different application materials. We are going to go over the timeline and deadlines, and then how to stay organized. We're seeing my slides switch, right? Okay, perfect. It's like not showing me that they're switching, so I just wanted to double check. Okay, so we're first going to start off. There are a few different ways you can apply for college. One of the most common options is students will apply through the Common application. This is one platform for a lot of different colleges and universities. So Common App has over 1,000 different schools available that you can apply for. Each school you apply for through the Common App will have their own kind of separate sections, but a lot of them will have overlap. So instead of having to apply to maybe your 10 different schools on 10 different websites, you could do those 10 applications potentially through just one Common App. So if you are someone who's interested in really applying for kind of a large variety of schools, going through the Common App might be an easier option for you. There is also the Coalition for College. This is similar to the Common App, but it's a little bit of a smaller scale. So it's only about 120 schools that are offered with the Coalition for College application. It is partnered with SCORE. So if any of you use SCORE at your high school for any of your kind of like college planning, and the college you're wanting to apply to is also through Coalition for College, going through this application might be a good option for you. This application has kind of a good focus on access and affordability. So they offer some of their own fee waivers through this application. And again, just kind of a way to apply to kind of a multiple options of schools within one application. Last option is your institutional application. So these are the applications you're going to find on each specific university's website. So almost every college or university, they are going to have their own application option on their website. You'll find it through the college or university's website. This is for community colleges, universities. If you're only really applying to like a few schools, this might be the best option for you. Or if you're going to kind of do your applications in batches, maybe you're going to apply to a school that's like early decision earlier on. Maybe you'll do that one through the institutional application and then do like your kind of batch of ones later on through the Common App. Really, the choice is yours on kind of like what you prefer. There's no right or wrong way, but there are some different options when it comes to how you can apply. Some things you'll want to make sure you have prepared when it comes time to apply. So I definitely recommend kind of getting your materials gathered early. You can start kind of gathering a lot of these materials your junior year, and we'll look kind of at a timeline of what that looks like. But gather them early and also store them in kind of a centrally located area. I suggest using like a digital folder for all your application materials because then they're all in one place, easy access. You'll be able to go grab and upload them wherever you need them. But it's also really important to look into each individual school because each individual school is going to have different requirements for what you have to apply with. Some schools are going to require things that other schools aren't going to require. So look into each individual school so you know what it is you need to submit for that specific school. So most commonly you'll have to submit some transcripts. So these would be your high school transcripts, anywhere that you received any type of a high school credit or a college credit, you will submit those transcripts. Any SAT or ACT scores. So if you have taken the SAT or ACT, you would want to make sure that you send those in with your application. How to submit your transcripts and your test scores are also going to vary depending on the school itself. So for some schools, they might allow you to just upload that information into Common App, self-report the information yourself. Some schools, they're going to require those things to come from those separate entities. So for example, here at Arizona State University, we require the SAT score to come directly from College Board. We require the ACT score to come directly from the ACT website. We require transcripts to come directly from the school. They can't come from the student. So it's important to kind of look into your school you're applying for to see how those materials should be submitted. Other documents you'll want to start gathering is financial documents. If you are going to be submitting a FAFSA, you will need to have your tax information, income information handy, your parents' tax information, income information, all of that kind of necessary documentation in order to complete your FAFSA. There is also something called a CSS profile. Some schools require this and some schools do not. So again, also important to kind of look into each individual school for whether or not they require it. Some schools, it's kind of just similar to the FAFSA. It's another way to qualify for financial aid. For example, at Arizona State University, it is only an option for students who are not able to complete a FAFSA. So for example, maybe like an undocumented student, they would go through the CSS profile instead of completing a FAFSA. So again, look into the school itself to see what they require, if they require both the FAFSA and the CSS profile or just one or the other. Depending on the school, you might also have to include some personal materials. So some schools will require a resume, and on this resume, you'll want to make sure you're including your extracurriculars, any of your leadership, your involvement. You'll want to make sure you have kind of just a variety of things that show who you are as a student and who you are as a person. Some schools do require essays. So you'll also want to make sure that you have access to those essay prompts and start drafting and writing your essays. Some schools require a personal statement. They're kind of similar to an essay, but it might be a little bit shorter or a little bit more just so about you or why you want to attend that school. Some schools also require letters of recommendations. Some schools require one letter. Some schools require 2 letters. Again, really just depends on the school. Last little bit of materials to kind of have ready to go. When you apply to universities and colleges, there will be an application fee as well. So you will want to make sure that you either have a way to pay your application fee or you have a fee waiver. Some students qualify for fee waivers in different ways. So if you qualify for a fee waiver, make sure you have that waiver code or you have access to pay the application fee. If you are applying to kind of some specialty programs, there might be kind of some additional steps. So for example, if you're interested in like an art school, there may be a portfolio. If you are interested in music or performing arts, there may be an audition. Some schools also have an interview component. So again, just really kind of looking into each specific school and seeing what it is they require and what you'll need to submit and gather for that school. So schools do have some different types of deadlines. So there is an early decision deadline. A school that has an early decision deadline, this is a binding deadline. So if you apply to an early decision school by their early decision deadline and you are admitted, that means you must attend that school. So that is something to keep in mind. If you're applying to anything that is early decision, it is a binding deadline. If you're accepted, you have to attend there. These early decision deadlines are usually pretty early in the year. So something also to keep in mind, and we'll look at a timeline here in just a minute, but something to keep in mind is that you want to be mindful of any type of deadline really early on. So you make sure you're meeting any of these early decision, early action deadlines as early as you can. Early action, it is a non-binding deadline, but basically what it means is if you apply early, you'll find out earlier. So a lot of schools will have like an early action and then also a regular decision deadline. So applying by that early action deadline will have the benefit of maybe some additional scholarship opportunities and then finding out if you're admitted sooner rather than waiting for the regular decision deadline. Regular decision, typically this is kind of like the most common application type, deadline type. Typically, you'll get an admission decision in the spring with a regular decision. And then rolling admissions. So rolling admissions means there is no fixed deadline. Admission decisions are given basically as applications are received. So I have a couple different examples of schools for these types. So for example, Arizona State University, we are a rolling admissions school. So you can really apply at any time and you'll hear back about 4 to 6 weeks after you apply. The University of Arizona, for example, they are an early action school, and this is new. So they changed this year. They used to be rolling admissions, they changed to early action. So with that, they basically have an early action deadline of November 1st. If you meet that November 1st deadline, you will hear back by January 15th. You can apply after the November 1st deadline, but then it is on a space available basis, and you won't find out until later in the spring. Another example for our just kind of a regular decision deadline is the University of Washington. So the University of Washington, they have a regular decision deadline of November 15th, and then students hear back in March, typically on whether or not they're admitted. For early decision, one example of this is Boston College. They actually have two separate early decision deadlines. So early decision 1, you have to apply by November 1st. You'll hear back by December 15th. Early decision 2, you'll apply by January 2nd and you'll hear back by February 15th. Either of those deadlines, though, like I said, they're binding deadlines. So if you're accepted, then you must attend Boston College. Okay, so we're gonna look into a little bit of kind of just a suggested like application timeline starting from your junior through your senior year. Again, and you're gonna hear me say this a lot of times, make sure you're checking your school's website that you're applying to because every school really is so different. So every school is going to have kind of their own deadlines. So make sure you're aware of the school you're applying to, what their specific deadline type is, what their deadline day is, so that you can best kind of prepare yourself. So, starting with your junior year, again, and this is just kind of a suggestion of what you should kind of be planning for, preparing for as you go. So, the fall of your junior year, September to October time, it's recommended to take like a PSAT or an MSQT, which is important and helpful for qualifying for national merit scholarships. In this time, also, it's a good idea to start your research. Start looking into different colleges. If you know what major you want, kind of look at what colleges have those different majors. Focus on maintaining strong grades throughout your junior year. A lot of the universities, they're going to be looking at your grades from your freshman through your junior year. So you really want to make sure you're kind of hitting the ground running your junior year and keeping up your good grades as well. November, December timeframe. Here's kind of a good time to start kind of making a college list of colleges you're interested in. You know, the colleges that have the major you're interested in, has maybe a campus lifestyle you're interested, has different programs or opportunities that you want to do. Start kind of looking into taking the SAT or ACT. I know sometimes in your school districts, they might offer them for you at your schools, but you might have to go out and kind of find an opportunity to take that as well. It's also a good idea in your junior year to kind of start going to some college fairs and attending some informational sessions, learning more about specific colleges, seeing kind of what's out there, and starting to just kind of ask those questions. January, February time is a good time to kind of keep on with your college list, still kind of going through those college fairs and kind of keep trucking along with that. For spring, your junior year, March or April time would be a good time to then take that first SAT or ACT. So in the fall, you're kind of preparing, you're figuring out when they're going to be offered, getting signed up, and then in the spring, actually going on and taking it. If you have the opportunity to go visit some colleges during your spring break, that would also be a really great benefit. I always say that the best way to decide what college is going to be your college is by visiting the campus. That's really how you're going to know, like, if you can see yourself for the next 4 years, if that's going to be your home. So really starting those college visits your junior year is kind of the best time. Also during the springtime, you can also start thinking about who's going to write your letters of recommendation. Especially a lot of these applications, they're pretty early in the school year. So it is good to kind of get some of the things out of the way before the summer if you can. So start thinking about who is going to be writing those letters of recommendations. You know, is it going to be teachers, counselors, coaches, a mentor? Who are those people going to be for you? May would be a good time if you're enrolled in any like AP classes, take those AP exams, kind of start paring down your college list. Think about if there's any summer activities that might help strengthen your application. You know, some of these schools, they are going to be looking at your extracurriculars, your involvement. So if you are looking into schools that are looking for those things, kind of seeing if there's anything else you can do or add in over the summer to kind of help just beef up your application. June would be a good time to request those letters of recommendation. Some of those you might want to submit like right when the school year gets started. And if you're asking like teachers or counselors who are going home for the summer, they're not going to want to write those over the summer for you. So asking them maybe before school gets out could be a good benefit. And then that way they're also not like on a super short time crunch when you come back in the fall. You also could begin drafting your personal essays. A lot of the universities will post their essay prompts earlier, even than sometimes their applications open. So you can start kind of looking at what those essay prompts are, getting those drafted so that you're ready to go when those applications do open. You can also create a college application account. So if you're going to apply through the Common App or through that Coalition for College, you can access those websites, create your account, input your personal information so you're all ready to go once it comes time to start applying. So your senior year for fall, summertime, July, August, it's kind of when you want to finalize your college list. Know, what colleges it is you actually want to apply to. It's recommended to apply to about 6 to 10. Complete your common application profile if you didn't already do so, and then kind of start refining those essays, making sure that they're all ready to go for those applications. If you are doing essays, it's also really important to have people edit them, have people review them, and it's great to have your friends do it, but have someone who is going to be honest with you and also can edit it so that it also sounds nice. You do want it to sound like yourself and you don't want it to sound like AI wrote it, but have someone who can help you just kind of make sure that it makes sense. It has a good flow to it, and you are able to get across the points that you want to get across. September is a good time to do your FAFSA, or no, sorry, start getting ready for FAFSA. FAFSA will become available typically October 1st. I will say it does kind of vary from year to year, but hopefully it opens October 1st for most years. So start kind of getting those documents ready for it. So your tax documents, your income documents, getting all that ready so that you can complete the FAFSA once it opens. This would also be a good time to start going in and looking at the deadlines for the different schools you're applying for, making sure you are on track to meet all of those different deadlines. Also good for requesting your official test scores. So like I said, SAT or ACT, a lot of times you have to request them through the official website. So making sure that those are getting sent to the schools that you are applying for. October, this is when you'll want to then now complete the FAFSA or the CSS profile. If you are doing any early decision or early action, a lot of those do have a November 1st deadline. So really kind of finalizing all of those applications throughout October and making sure that those are all sent off before that November 1st deadline. Okay, and then winter and spring for senior year. So November through December, this would be when you kind of want to submit your regular decision applications. So that November 1st, first deadline is typically the deadline for early action, early decision. A lot of regular decision schools do have a deadline of January 1st, but that's not the case for all schools. Some are earlier. For example, I mentioned University of Washington earlier. Theirs is November 15th. So it does really depend on each school. During this time frame, you can also be on the lookout for any early application results. You might be getting some pretty early on. And you can also start applying for scholarships. So there's lots of good ways to apply for scholarships, lots of good opportunities for scholarships. The sooner you start applying, the more opportunities and the more access you're going to have. January through February, this would be a good time if your school require like a mid-year transcript to make sure you get those submitted to the universities. Continue on with any scholarship applications. Make sure all of your applications are completed. So go back through, make sure your transcripts have been sent in, make sure your test scores have been sent in, make sure your essays, letters of recommendation, everything is squared away and that the school has everything it needs. And then if the school does have anything kind of additional, making sure any of those like specific steps are completed as well. March to April is typically when you'll start kind of receiving admission decisions, especially for that like regular decision deadline. So this is kind of when you want to start figuring out where you want to go. Now that you have your decisions and you know kind of where you're admitted to, you can start looking at different financial aid offers. How much scholarship money are you getting from one school to another? What is the overall cost from one school to another? Which campus life do you like better? And just kind of really paring down to make a final decision of where you want to go. It's also a great idea if you're able to revisit any of your top schools, maybe your top like 2 to 3, go back, visit campus again to really kind of just make that final decision. May is typically when your decision needs to be made. So May 1st is typically the enrollment deadline for a lot of universities and colleges. So you'll want to make sure that you submit any enrollment deposit to the school that you choose, and then also go in and notify other schools that you will not be attending there. So I kind of just mentioned this, but May 1st, this is National College Signing Day. So a lot of our colleges and our universities do have this deadline as a requirement that you must enroll by this date, or you must tell the school that, no, I don't plan to enroll by this date. Okay, so some ways to stay organized while we're kind of going through this whole process. So a couple of different things, especially if you're someone who you are applying to a variety of different schools, it can be hard to keep track of, keep track of the different deadlines, what each individual school requires. So staying organized is really the best way to make sure you're getting everything done that you need to get done. One thing you can do, and I will show you an example, is you could create a digital tracking system. You could create a spreadsheet. It'll have maybe your college names, the different deadlines, where you're at in the process of applying. You could use filters or colors to really kind of visualize what it looks like, and then make sure you're kind of staying on top of it that way. I do have an example of this I will show. Can we see my spreadsheet? Yeah, we can. Yeah, we're good. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So here's just kind of a little example of a spreadsheet you could create to track your college applications. I only plugged in here like the 4 colleges I gave examples of earlier on, but obviously you could plug in, any and all colleges that you're applying to. So the name of the college, what is the status of the application? Have you started it? Is it completed? Is it in progress? You could also plug in the application type. So is it rolling admission, regular decision, early action? You could also type in the application deadline so that you know to make sure you're getting it submitted before this date. I plugged in here like the essay. Is there an essay required? What's the status of your essay? Is it completed? Are you working on it? Same with the letters of recommendation. Are they required? Did your recommender already return your letter back to you? Has it been requested? Maybe you sent them a reminder. Same for the test scores. Are they required? Have they been submitted? Were they not yet submitted? What's the status with those? You could then plug in, once your application has been submitted, the date that you submitted it. That way you know you're good to go and it's been submitted before your deadline date. It's also a good idea to plug in here the financial aid deadline. So a lot of universities will have a financial aid deadline that's separate from their application deadline. So this is the deadline when you need to make sure you complete your FAFSA by. So it's a good idea to also have that in there, just so that's another thing to kind of keep track of. And then you could always include like a note section, like University of Washington, I'm going to hear back on my application in March, or Boston College, I'm going to hear back in December. So any notes on the school itself that you want to just kind of have a little reminder, you can plug in there as well. Obviously, this is just an example. Really, it's up to you on how you want to organize your information. But this is just an option to kind of keep track of all those different applications and where you're at in the process for each application. Okay. Are we back to my slideshow? Perfect. Okay. Another thing you can do to help stay organized is use some calendar reminders. So if you use like Google Calendar or Outlook, there's lots of other calendar apps out there. So whatever you prefer, but set yourself reminders, set yourself reminders of when specific due dates are, maybe even scheduling in some buffer time. So maybe setting those reminders a few days before the due date or a week before the due date, so that you have a little bit of time in case of some emergency to kind of finalize it versus missing the deadline if something maybe got forgotten or got missed. You can also color code tasks in your calendar. So maybe if it's you need to complete your essay by a specific date, or you want to make sure you submit your test score, you could color code things using a different kind of color coding thing so that you can keep track of different tasks that you'll be completing. Another good option to stay organized is creating a dedicated email account just for applying for colleges. This is also a good way if you're someone who's had the same email account since maybe you were like a kid, to have like a new, nice, professional sounding email account. I will tell you, when I was applying to colleges, I had the same email I made when I was like 10. So it was like Hannah Banana 35. I mean, it's not like inappropriate by any means, but it's not the most professional sounding email. So it's a good time to make a new email account that's professional, sounds good. And then all of your college communications can go directly to that email. So versus worrying about things getting really lost in your shuffle, I don't know about you all, but I get lots of like shopping ad emails, lots of different things to my personal email address. So having one where you'll be able to filter through and it's just college communications, really easy to find any kind of emails from those colleges or anything to keep track of. One kind of last tip on here is to create a digital folder. And I kind of mentioned this earlier on, but if you create a digital folder to store all of the different application materials, then you'll have everything in one place and be able to reuse things if you need to. So, some things you're not going to need to create maybe a whole nother essay for another school if it's maybe a pretty similar prompt. So having this digital folder, you'll be able to reuse any materials that you're able to kind of use for multiple schools. Everything's in one place for you to find. I really love using Google Drive because Google automatically saves things for you. So when you're working in like a Google document or a Google sheet, it auto saves as you go. So you also don't have to worry about like losing your essay as you're writing it or anything like that. But really just kind of keeping everything centrally located is a great option. Okay. So a little bit more on staying organized for kind of some of these specific processes. So for managing your essays, it's really important to start early, making sure your essay is a good quality essay. It may take you a few drafts to get through your essay, so it's okay to revise, have someone else look over it, go back, edit it, rewrite it. So starting it early will really ensure you have the time to do those multiple drafts. You could also create a master document. So like one document that has all of the different essay prompts from all the schools. That way you can see if there is any overlapping prompts where you can kind of use the same essay for multiple schools. Maybe you need to do a little bit of tweaking to make it match a prompt, but you might not have to completely rewrite a new essay for each school. It's also, I mentioned this earlier, find trusted reviewers. So teacher, counselor, someone in your family, someone who's going to give you honest feedback, not change it to make it not sound like you, but make sure it still has a good flow. You're getting your points across, proper grammar, things like that. When necessary, it is important to make sure you do customize your essays. So some schools will ask specific things about their school. So it is important to make sure if that is the case, you are customizing those for those specific schools. And then just really making sure you're proofreading. That is a common thing that some students might not get accepted somewhere because they have a lot of errors in their essay, or they submitted the wrong essay to the wrong school. So just really making sure you're reviewing everything, proofreading everything before you submit. Letters of recommendation, choose recommenders who you know well. So make sure it is someone like a teacher or a counselor who you do have a relationship with. It can be a teacher that you maybe just had one class in and you performed well in that class, but someone who can really speak to your character as well, I think is going to also go a long way. They do care about obviously your academics, but someone who knows you, maybe you've had a few different classes with them, or you go and sit with them during lunch, a teacher or a counselor or someone in the school who you do have kind of a relationship with, they're going to get you a better letter of recommendation. It's important to request your letters at least 4 to 6 weeks before the deadline. I mentioned earlier, it could be a good idea to request them the end of your junior year versus like having to frantically ask for them and having your teachers or counselors rush at the beginning of the school year. So make sure you're giving them plenty of time. They might not be checking their emails over the summer. So if you request them over the summer, they may or may not get to them. When you are requesting a letter, it is really helpful if you can provide them with like a resume or activities list. So things you're involved in, any like specific achievements you had in their class specifically, the colleges that you're going to be applying to and the deadlines that you need those letters of recommendation back by. And then if there's any specific forms or ways that the recommenders have to submit their letter of recommendation, make sure that is communicated with them as well. It's okay to send some reminders if you are having people write your letters of recommendations and maybe you're getting pretty close to when they're supposed to give them back to you and you haven't heard from them yet. It's okay to send them a little reminder, but also it's really important to update them on what happens. So, after they took some time out of their day to write you a letter, update them on the colleges you got into, send them little thank you notes, because it is them taking some time out of their day to do something for you. So it's nice to be able to kind of keep them in the loop, let them know what's going on and giving them a thank you. For financial aid, it is recommended to create your FAFSA account early, and then also start really kind of gathering any required documents as well. So some of the things you're going to need, we talked a little bit about this, but you will need like your tax returns, your W-2 forms, social security numbers, bank statements, investment records, anything that really shows like any of your kind of income, you're going to have to provide for the FAFSA. So making sure we have all the necessary documentation ready to go early on. Make sure you're double checking if your school does require the CSS profile. I mentioned this earlier. Some schools do, some schools don't. Really just kind of depends on the school. Make sure you are checking the school's specific financial aid deadline, because a lot of times it can be different than what the school's application deadlines are. So making sure you're aware of both the application deadline and then their financial aid deadline. When it comes to scholarships, you can really apply for scholarships year round. I think a lot of times students only think about applying for scholarships when they're also applying for college, but really you can apply at any time. So even after you have your admission decision from schools, you can still be applying for scholarships. When you're a freshman in college, you can still be applying for scholarships. So really just kind of keeping on looking for scholarships, applying for scholarships, that is going to be your best bet. And then last thing on here is just kind of making sure you're comparing your financial aid offers before making any final decision. You do want to make sure that you're making an informed decision. So you want to really look into how much is that school going to cost? What are they offering me in terms of scholarships? What are they offering me in terms of grants or student loans? So you really understand what it's going to cost you to attend that school before making the decision. Okay, just a couple more slides. So here are some kind of common mistakes that we might see some students make. So procrastination. So, a lot of students will procrastinate because they are stressed out. Applying for college can be a stressful process. And so people just will put it off. But if you put it off, it's just going to make it more stressful. So I definitely recommend kind of breaking it up into some smaller chunks, starting early, and then setting yourself deadlines as you go. Another common mistake is missing deadlines. So, like I mentioned earlier, kind of set yourself some buffer time in your calendar. Set yourself some reminders a week before, maybe a few days before. That way, you have some built in time if there is any kind of, I don't have my letter of recommendation when I was supposed to, or, oh, I forgot to submit my SAT score, whatever it might be. Give yourself some buffer so you have some time to figure out any mistakes that might have happened. Another mistake could be just being disorganized and having disorganized materials. So again, I really recommend like a digital folder system. I think that that is the best way to have all your things in one place. There's lots of different ways you can be organized. So find what works best for you. But I do think having everything centrally located so that you can pull them for all the applications is your best option. Another mistake, and this is something I see a lot, is errors on the application. So make sure before you submit your application, you read through it and have someone else read through it. I spend at least some time almost every single day calling students because they put their birthday wrong or their social security wrong or they spelled their name wrong. So there are, a lot of information you're going to be inputting into an application. So you really want to read over it and make sure everything in there is accurate. Another mistake could be potentially if you're like recycling essays and not customizing them. So some schools really are going to be looking for an essay that is personal to that school itself. So make sure you are really looking at those essay prompts, knowing what they're asking for, and if you need to personalize those essays for that specific school, that you are doing so. You also don't want to neglect your regular schoolwork. You are also a high school student while you're doing all these college applications. So you want to make sure that you have kind of a balanced schedule your senior year. You're able to still do your classes, complete your workload, any extracurriculars you're involved in. Maybe you have a job while also doing the college applications as well. Another thing could be forgetting follow-up. So it's really a lot of colleges and universities, after you apply, you will get a application portal, which is where you can kind of track the status of your application. I definitely recommend checking the status of your application and checking in on those portals often because a lot of times if there is something you forgot or missing, that's how you'll find out is in that portal. Or you might even get an admission decision in that portal before you actually get an email. For us at ASU, students will see in their portal if they're admitted like a day or two before they get an email. So like that's something I always tell students. I'm like, check your portal every day. You might find out some good news in there earlier on. So just kind of making sure you're following up with the schools and with your portals and keeping track of those applications even after they're submitted. Last thing here is just kind of stress. Like I said, it can be a stressful time. So making sure you're building in some self-care and then also celebrating the small victories. Be proud of yourself when you submit an application or you finish an essay. Reward yourself in some way with whatever it is you might like to do. But it is a lot of work applying for colleges. So make sure you're also kind of celebrating those victories as well. Okay, last slide. So just a couple kind of last tips for success. So, really the best advice I can give is know what resources you have that are available to you. There are so many resources out there. So knowing what those resources are and accessing and using those resources is going to best set you up for success. Also, don't be afraid to reach out to the college or university's admissions office. Me, I am a admissions representative. My whole job is basically answering questions about students who are interested in ASU. So all day, every day, I'm answering questions, I'm helping students, I'm making sure that they are set up for success when it comes to their application or enrolling. So don't be afraid to reach out to the specific colleges and universities with questions you have. They are the ones who are the experts on their specific college. Your school itself should have lots of resources. So if you have guidance counselors, if you have a college and career center, maybe you have teacher mentors. There are a lot of online tools as well. So there is through College Board, it's called College Board Big Future. This is a way that you can kind of start inputting some information, looking into some different schools and what they require. Getting into Common App, like I mentioned, if you're interested in applying through Common App, kind of setting up that profile early on. Again, with FAFSA as well. FAFSA also does have a lot of really great like articles and resources and information. And then also using the different kind of college websites as well. You also can go like attend college fairs, attend high school visits, and then meet with specific college professionals. You can also potentially meet with alumni networks or attend workshops or webinars such as this. So, through this college access program, there are also, I'm sure, so many different resources, so many different opportunities. So, really just making sure that you are making use of the resources that are available to you. Okay, that is it from me. I know we have a couple slides that you want to go through at the end, so I don't know if you want to open it up to questions.
Yeah, I think we can open it up to questions first. I see a question
Okay.
here. Um, asking, should the letters be from junior year teachers or are other years okay?
I think other years are okay. I think it really kind of depends on the teacher itself. Like it could be maybe your sophomore year, it could be a freshman year. I would really just focus on a teacher who knows you, like I said, kind of knows your character and you as a student. So I think if you can get a teacher who's maybe had you a few times, that would be beneficial. But I think a lot of times students are like, it has to be my like AP calculus teacher. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be like your most advanced class, but choosing a teacher that really can speak to who you are.
Awesome. And what about having two recommendations from teachers that teach the same subject? Is it better to have teachers of different subjects or is two math teachers okay?
I think if you can have a variety, it could be beneficial. But I would also say, like, if you are applying as a math student, then having two math teachers might also be beneficial. I think what a lot of schools are looking for, they're looking for well-rounded students. So if you are able to kind of show that you are able to have a good recommendation from math and a good recommendation from something else, I do think that's beneficial. But like I said, if you're applying as a math student, then maybe those two math ones will be great.
Awesome. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, I think while we give people a moment to think of any questions they have, maybe I can take the screen sharing back.
Yes. Did mine stop sharing?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome. So, as I said, this is a monthly session. So for those of you that are alumni, look out for the link for the Writing Your College Essay session next month. It will be Wednesday, December 17th at 7 p.m. And also remember, those of you that are alumni, you have referral codes. So you can refer your friends to CIEE and earn $200 when they study abroad. And that referral link also gives a $200 discount to your friend who is applying. And those of you that are prospective students that are here to learn more about CIEE, we still have a couple more sessions tonight. We still have sessions tomorrow. So check out our schedule by following this QR link and register for whatever interests you here. I see one more question came in. Should you apply to scholarships before or after college applications?
So some scholarships honestly will have deadlines earlier than applications. So I would start looking into scholarships whenever. There really is like so many different scholarships out there with so many different deadlines. So there's really never a time to not be looking at scholarships. So I would definitely like your junior year, you can start looking into scholarships, seeing what those deadlines are like, start applying for those, and then keep on applying for those even once you've applied for the colleges as well.
Any other questions? No. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Hope to see you in more virtual fair sessions. Thank you, Hannah, for joining us tonight and giving us such amazing insight, such great tips. I think all of these students are going to be organization pros after the session that and the advice that you gave them. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Awa, for being on, and have a great night.